Hello and welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm making a clean and simple card for the Team Tiny Love Hop. And since it's past Valentine's Day, I wanted to make a card that showed love but doesn't look like Valentine's Day. So I'm starting by using some masking paper, and this is Masking Magic by Gina Designs. And I drew a heart using a stencil and I'm cutting it out. But you can use whatever masking paper you have. I'm going to be doing a watercolor scene using these Art Impressions watercolor stamps. This first one is the bridge set and the flower set, the branches set, and the foliage set. I thought I might also use this bird set, but I didn't use it. Also, I'll be using some acrylic stamping blocks, and I've got some bigger ones and some small ones from Art Impressions. And then this is a stamp positioner to help you line up your stamps, since these aren't clear stamps. I'm also going to be using a piece of cold pressed watercolor paper, and I've cut it down just a little bit smaller than A2 size. I took my first watercolor class from Art Impressions back in 2019 at the Scrapbook and Stamp Expo in Schaumburg, Illinois in 2019. And then I haven't been able to take any more because of COVID. However, I have watched a lot of their videos. I haven't done much with it just yet, so I'm not really great at it, but I want to show you how good you can do with just a little bit of practice. And as I always tell my preschool children at school, everything takes practice. You'll get better the more you do it. So that's why I'm doing it. I may not be great at it, but I'm practicing. Now, I did see this technique used where they used a heart and did a scene. And the one thing this helps you with is for those of us who don't know quite where to make the scene end, this will make it end. So I'm just putting this on my watercolor paper, and I'm going to use a bridge. I was going to use the larger wooden bridge, but then I switched to the more rustic one that was smaller. Now I just peel off the paper backing of the stamp and put it on an acrylic block. Since these are rubber stamps, you could use regular stamp pads for regular stamping, but since I'm doing watercolor, I'm using watercolor markers. So for the first color, I'm using Sienna, and it's a Tombow marker, and this is number 969. And then Bonnie Krebs from Art Impressions always shows on a lot of the wood that you use wood, brown and blue, so I'm going to go over it again with my blue marker, which is 528, which is a navy color. That way, when you do the watercolor, it'll have more of a deeper color instead of just a one flat color, kind of like wood would have. And I'm using my stamp positioner, so I'm just going to stamp the acrylic with the stamp positioner. Then I can move it where I want the image. Then I'll remove the acrylic, keep my frame there, and then I'm going over my stamp a little bit more just to make sure I have enough ink on it. And then I'm going to stamp it using my positioner so I get the bridge where I wanted it. Then for the watercolor, you just use, I have a cup of water, and I'm just applying it to the bridge. And it's kind of like, if you've ever remembered doing as a kid, those books that you just kind of painted on water for color, that's how it works. So you don't paint directly with the water on the lines, but just below or above the line to pull out the color. And so you want to try to get the areas darker where the shadows would be darker. And also Bonnie Krebs teaches that you should not fill it in completely. So there should be white space because watercolor is giving the general look of the item, not a detailed look. So you want to have a little bit of white space, not quite filled in. Now, I'm not really great with shadowing, but of course, on the sides, I'm putting more. And of course, where the cracks are, I'm trying to put some more. And as it goes down, where it'd be more under the bridge, that will be darker. But I'm just trying to show that even though I'm not an artist and I'm still learning, I think you can still get a nice image. And then whoever you're going to send the card to, they're not going to expect you to send a card that looks like an artist made it if you're not an artist. They'll just appreciate that it's a handmade card. And I think they'll be impressed if you're someone like me who can't draw anything. Next, I'm going to add the foliage, and I'm just trying to figure out about where I think paths would be and the foliage would be as far as perspective, and that's where I have the most trouble because I'm not an artist. But I'm going to use this Post-it to cover up my bridge, and I'm going to use a branch, and then since it's going to look like it's sitting behind, so the branch is going to look like a tree, and I'm just coloring it with the same brown marker I did before. Actually, never mind. I did use a different colored marker, and this was my chocolate brown. So actually, the Sienna was $9.47, and the chocolate brown is $9.69. And I'm just trying to put this. Now, one thing she does teach is that you don't have to use the whole stamp. So I'm just trying to put some branches showing up above the bridge so it looks like it's behind, and kind of leaning them a little bit because it's kind of looking like it's on a hill with the water coming down under the bridge. I'm adding a little bit more brown because the branches didn't quite reach to the bridge, so of course that would look funny. So I'm just adding that. And I couldn't remember if you're really supposed to do watercolor over the branches, because when you have the thinner lines, you don't want to draw them out too much. Otherwise, you'll lose the detail. I decided to put on some flowers on my trees instead of leaves because I can't wait to spring. So I'm using the color 815, which is cherry, and these kind of 5-petal type flowers that look like they could be dogwood flowers or cherry blossoms. And they're small, so it's just giving it the look. So to do the watercolor technique, you just color your stamp and go in a circular motion 5 times. And that way you get different levels of ink on the page so that it has different shading. And I keep doing that till I get my trees filled in as much as I like. So next I'm just using my Sienna again to draw in the branches down past the bridge where it wasn't showing up. And then I'm taking my shortest grass stamp from the Foliage set and coloring it with color 158, which is a green. And then you use that where you stamp several times, usually 5 times. I don't think I had enough room for that. And doing it in a walking motion. So then you get varying degrees of shades. And I'm trying to do it where I think there might be a path, kind of filling in where trying to make kind of a hill and where the path would meet the bridge. Then you just take your watercolor brush and kind of dot where the flowers are. I think I went over it a little bit too much, so you want to kind of blur it out a little bit, but not lose all the definition, which I think I lost a little bit more definition than I wanted. I couldn't remember if you were supposed to add water to the grass or not, so I'm just adding a little bit, but going up in a stroke so I don't lose the definition of the grass. Then I added some flowers for some extra color and interest, so I decided to use the smaller flower with the light colored yellow, but I didn't like that. It was a little bit too small and too light, so then I picked the next size flower that kind of goes up high and used color 985. Now that flower is a little too tall, so the technique that they also showed us was that you are coloring it, so you don't have to color the whole stamp. So I just colored the top third and use that. And then that one you kind of start in the middle and then go on either side to get different shades of the yellow. And then you just kind of dab that. For the rest of the scene, I'm just doing the watercolor technique like you normally would, where you put your watercolor on a palette and transfer that to your picture. So I'm just using the 947. And this is a Tim Holtz glass mat, and it has a palette on the side, which I really like. Because before on my work mat, you couldn't really see the color very well. So since this is white, you can see it. So I'm just using the same color. I'm just adding more water so that the path will be a lighter color than the bridge. And I'm having trouble trying to figure exactly where I think the path will be going, because I'm envisioning the water coming underneath the bridge, kind of going downhill. So I just rub that off, and then I'm going to use a darker blue, which is the navy that I used on the bridge also. And I'm going to put darker under the bridge for shading. And then as I go out from under the bridge, I'll lighten it with more water to make it a lighter color. So I'm going to use different shades so that it looks more realistic. I decided as far as the perspective that the water will be going over to the left-hand side here. So I decided to add some more grass over on the right. Now, whether I got the perspective just right, maybe not, but I could never do a watercolor scene like this before. So it's something I've never been able to do, and now I can do one. Does it look like an artist? No, but it's not going to an art museum, and it is paper. So if it really turns out bad, turn it over, paint the other side. Or try again on another piece of paper. It is just paper. And just keep trying. Probably the more we do it, the better we'll get. And I'm doing this just to show what you can do even if you're not an artist or you don't think you can do this. And so with the stamping, I think it helps those of us who really can't draw be able to make scenes that we never could before. And it's for fun. I did enjoy doing it, and it really didn't take too long to do this. Now with this masking technique, it's also great because, see, I wouldn't really know where to end the water or the side. Well, the heart ends it for me, so I don't have to think about that. Now I'm just using the color 515 to do the sky, and this is where I really felt that the masking was the most helpful, because when I took the class and we did a scene where you put in the sky, that's what intimidated me the most, besides perspective. So this helps because you just fill it in until the heart ends. And so that's the great part of using a mask. And I found when I was taking that class that people who had been doing this for a while, that was one of the things that intimidated them also. Now, the other thing is you're putting in the sky, leave some white space around your items. You don't want to mix the blue in with your red and things like that. And then I'm just using a brown micron pen to go over the wood planks and adding a little mark on the side to give it a little bit of dimension and to make sure that stands out. Then I just take the mask off, and that's the fun part. Then I'm sorry about the rest of the video. I forgot to move my camera back to the other side. I had moved it over so it could show the palette, and I got my card partway off scene. So I just found some blue cardstock, and it happened to already be cut out with a die cut from Lawn Fawn. I like it having the stitching around because it gives it detail. And I just cut down the cardstock where I did my painting a little bit more so that that would show. And I'm just using my art glitter glue, or you can use whatever adhesive glue that you have, or even tape, to attach my backing paper here, this blue paper, to my card base. And then I use the same glue to attach my picture. And I did have a little bit of white from the card showing, so I don't know if I cut the blue a little bit too small or the card a little too big or didn't fold it just right. So I just used my scissors to trim that down. Now this video is part of a hop with Team Tiny, so just click on the hashtag in the description below to find the other videos, or type in hashtag Team Tiny Love Hop, that's LUV Hop 2022 to see the other videos, and you'll get some more inspiration for other cards to make. I want to thank you so much for watching. I'm finishing up by adding some droplets from Dress My Craft, and there's different sizes of hearts, and I think that added a perfect embellishment for a clean and simple design. And also, I really liked using this heart mask because I have trouble with clean and simple designs, and this is a good way to do it and know when to stop. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel. I have a list of all the products I used in the description below. Have a wonderful day.